is Iben Ulle Søndergaard, working as a project manager in the city of Aarhus, and I will tell you some midterm results from the BiPAD project. And what we're doing is working really a lot with stakeholder engagement in Aarhus. So this is what mainly my presentation I will talk about. So please continue, next slide. Yeah, just shortly about where I'm from. I'm working in a department called ITK. It stands for Innovation, Technology and Creativity. And what we do in the department I'm working in is trying out a lot of new technologies before they end up in the city. So this is mainly what we do with 70 people working in testing different technologies before they're spread to the rest of the municipality. And this is also where BiPAD is placed. Next slide. And some small facts about the BiPAD. It's a Horizon Europe project. We started in January 2024, and we end up in December 2026. So we're a bit past halfway in the project. We have 13 partners, and it's led by DTU, the Danish Technical University, and Aarhus Brabrand is the only pilot city. So this is also what makes this project a little special, that we only have one city in the project. So we're really lucky that all of the partners is working just on Aarhus. But the next slide, because it's not the entire Aarhus we're working with, it's a smaller area called Brabrand. And just to show you that, of course, we're in Europe, we're in Denmark, in the middle part of Jutland. And Aarhus is placed close to the ocean, really to the east coast. And we have Brabrand, this is sort of a western area of Aarhus. And the next slide. And just shortly, what is actually Brabrand and why have we chosen this area? We have around 20,000 citizens living in Brabrand. It's a really, really diverse area. We have citizens from more than 80 nationalities living here. And what is also really special about Brabrand is that we actually have some of the most wealthiest people in Denmark living here, but also the people with the fewest means. So what Brabrand has is really, really diverse. And this is also why it's the area that has been chosen for BiPAD. Also because we have a lot of nature, we have a lot of apartment blocks, a lot of single family houses, and a big part of industry. So it's a really big area. And this is also why it's interesting to actually work with pets, because then we have to look into so many different areas and see how can they actually be combined into a pet. The next slide. And what is it that we actually do from the city of Aarhus is that if you look into the left corner, we are looking a lot to stakeholder and user involvement, and also looking for the technical partners. So we're sort of in the middle trying to involve all of the different stakeholders we have. We have a lot of meetings, presentation, talks, workshop, telling all of the stakeholders in Brabrand, what is a pet? What is the local digital twin that we're working in? And actually getting them to understand how they can be a really big part of a pet. The next slide. And now I just want to tell you some of the challenges we have met and also the learnings we have ended up with. And if we start with sort of what is the pet related challenges, is we have really seen that just explaining what a pet is actually a challenge, because it's a new word for so many people. So we have really focused on how can we really use our language, how can we use the storytelling about a pet, looking into who are the stakeholders that we're actually talking to. So that we really can see if who is it that we're talking to. We need to tell them about pets in a new way so that they understand it. Another challenge, I mentioned it shortly before, Brabrand is this really large district composed of a lot of smaller areas. So how is it that we actually combine this to a pet? And we're really thinking that we have to think big, because we have to think about the entire district, but we have to act local. So we really have to see, now we have a workshop with some citizens. Okay, we need to think of that. So that's also a really good learning. The next slide. Then when it comes to some of the more policy-related challenges, we see that a lot of the key policymakers in Aarhus still see pets as something experimental. And because it's something new, we haven't worked a lot with it in Aarhus, but we can actually see that when we're working with biped, the more we are telling about it, the more we're sort of showing the results that we have from the biped project. We can see that they have more focus, that it's also something that we can actually use to reach the 2030 goal that Pavel mentioned earlier. Another challenge that we see is also that we have this unclear Danish regulation for instance, local energy communities. That can be a big challenge. And unfortunately, we don't have the answer for that yet, but it's something that we're really focusing on getting actually into a focus so that we can meet this later on. Next slide. And then we have the solution, and Pavel will later show you the digital twin, talk more about the digital twin in biped, but it is a challenge to explain what a digital twin is, because we're developing it the same time that we're talking to stakeholders. So we really see that we need to have a lot of prototypes, demos, showing the stakeholders what is actually a digital twin, how can they use it, and also challenge that we really need to show clear value-based outcomes for companies, for cities, for the citizens, the municipality. So we really see that these evidence drive engagement, that we have to demonstrate what's in it for them being a part of the digital or the pet, and also what can they actually use a digital twin for. So when we show these examples, we can also see that they are more eager to join the pet community we're working in. Next slide. Yeah, and the results so far, we have one of the first things we did in the project was actually created a community or a booklet about how we're working with stakeholder engagement in Aarhus. Also, one of the things we're doing in BiPed is learning how is it that we do the stakeholder engagement and sort of passing on all of the results to other cities. So we started with this booklet telling what steps do we believe is the right way to involve the different stakeholders. Next slide. Then we have also created a PET stakeholder engagement framework. It's a really big Excel sheet showing all of the different stakeholders we've been involved with, a lot of information about them, how to communicate with them, how to get in contact with them, how often we should actually talk to them. So it's also been a really good tool, keeping sure that we talk to the right stakeholders at the right times. Next slide. A big part of BiPed is also establishing a pet community. From the grant agreement, we were told that we needed to focus on these 4 different stakeholder groups: citizens, communities, the public sectors, private enterprises, and also innovation communities and different institutes. So what we have done is really focusing is it that we find the right stakeholders in each group? How is it that we sometimes actually can combine them? Because we also see that sort of the magic happens if we have someone from each group actually participating in workshops. And this is an ongoing process where we keep on seeing, are there new stakeholders that we need to involve in, and at what step do we need to do it? Next slide. Then we also created some pet user profiles, because when we from Aarhus talk to a lot of the different stakeholders in Aarhus, we sort of need to all of the information, all of the experience we get, showing that to all of the technical partners in the project, so they know who will actually use the digital twin, who will be part of the pet. So we created these user profiles where they could learn more about the different stakeholders. And we really see this was a really good tool of also getting the partners to know more about it. Then the slide we are on now about the data, we can see that data was more difficult getting than we expected. To have a really good working digital twin, we need to have a lot of data. And we saw from the beginning of the project that getting these data were really more difficult than what we thought. So we also needed to get another colleague of ours involved in the project, a data scientist, and we created this data journey, getting an idea of how is the best way of getting data at the right time. Also, because a lot of the data we had to focus on GDPR, making sure, because we wanted to have an idea of what is the energy assumption of the different, for instance, household in Brabrand, but we cannot do that due to GDPR. So how could we actually get the data in the right, so that we can use it in a digital twin, but with also having focus on GDPR. So that has also been a big part of it. Next slide. Then we also see that biped is actually a really key puzzle, key piece in the Aarhus digital twin puzzle. We believe that we will have an Aarhus digital twin within the next couple of years. And a lot of the experience that we get from working with biped and all of the stakeholders is actually a big puzzle towards the big digital twin in Aarhus. So we really, see that this is some good experience that we get from this. Next slide. Yes, and this is, I think I have 3 slides left from my side, but just to tell you a short about one of the really good stakeholders we have, a use case. It's a community called Sun Above Brabrand. This is a community-driven local energy initiative that produces and shares green solar power in Brabrand. And how we actually work with them is that we have a lot of meetings with them where we're testing the digital twin, see how can they actually use it in what they're doing. What they want to do is have solar panels on a lot of their different single family homes and then share the energy between them. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, due to the Danish legacy, there is some issues about it. So we're trying to help them. How can they still test it and see if it works? How can they use the digital twin? And what do we need to develop in the digital twin for them to actually use it? So they're a really, really good use case. Next slide. And this is the last thing I will tell you about. It's the next step we're doing in Aarhus. It's that we're working with living labs. Maybe you already know of it, have heard of it, but what we're doing in biped is looking into a NOLS definition of living labs, where we're looking into user involvement, how to actively engage the users in developing and testing new technologies, the collaboration that I mentioned before. We really need to focus on the various stakeholders, including them a lot of the time actually together. So we have the public, the private, the citizens at the same time. We're looking into real world settings. We're thinking of how is it that we don't invite them to come to us, but we go to them instead, actually test a lot of the products in Brabrand at the different, at a citizen's household or at an office of a private company. And then a lot to do with co-creation. And now I have my last slide. And this is what we've done so far. We have had a lot of workshops with students where they created prototypes for us. We have visited a lot of other living labs, getting inspiration from actually how to do it. So we believe that within the next couple of months, will have we believe that it will be a living lab on wheels so that we can actually transport ourselves around Brabrand, showing the digital twin, telling more about the pets, to make stakeholders even more involved in it. And that was it from me. And thank you for the patience.